we still have our guest with us that was with us last week as we talked about the very important issue of mental illness, and that being a worldwide 365 issue that all of us deal with. So we have with us once again Mrs. Corey Minor Smith. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. And she's an awesome person. She's many of you are probably familiar with her work that she's done in the community. Thank you for coming out this summer to our leadership camp that we had.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure.
Yeah,
wonderful group of young people.
Yeah, so that was an awesome thing. And I know last year, well, still this year, I'm saying last year because school years,
yeah,
right?
School year. Right.
Throws me off, but earlier this year it would have been, I know that you had spoke for the event up at the school, at the high
Alliance
school.
High School, yes.
Yeah, you spoke for that.
The Black History program. It was a wonderful event, and some great people in the community were honored.
Yes.
So it was really nice to be here.
Yeah, so we are very familiar with her. Now tell us about your work. Let's tell us a little bit about you, but what we're going to focus in on today after we hear more about her story, because her book is part of her story.
Yes.
She wrote a fantastic book called Hashtag Driven, Corey Minor Smith, and we want to talk about this and encourage you, and we'll tell you at the end how you can pick up copies of it. So let's talk about Corey Minor Smith and your story, the little girl, and how we ended up here.
Well, I'm just going to start as an adult. No, I'm
Yes.
just kidding. No, I'm currently, an attorney and now author and transformational speaker, and my goal is to help
Don't
people.
forget, you're also using your music. Don't leave that out, right?
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so yes, I now also have a song. So I guess
Yes.
I'm an indie artist because I did these things independently with the self-publishing as well as working with a local producer and songwriter. I co-wrote my song, which is also called Hashtag Driven. And what you may not know, there's a line dance to it now.
Oh, okay.
So I'm still learning it, but there is a line dance to go with the song. It's a very uplifting, encouraging song.
Yeah, we played it. The youth, they loved it, and usually with the line dancing thing, I find myself going the wrong direction and bumping. So I'll just leave that alone.
It's great to have somebody that calls out the steps. That's an awesome thing for sure.
Well, that's awesome. So tell us about you and how you've arrived to this point.
Yes. Well, in a short summary, I went to 14 different schools, lived in 3 states and 8 different households. And this includes, the time that my parents and I all lived together, which was in California. I actually started school in Vallejo, California.
Okay.
I am from Canton, Ohio, and ultimately ended up back in Canton, Ohio. But a part of my story was the 14 schools, the 3 states, and the 8 households. And it's like, well, how do you know you went to that many schools, or how you know that you
Right.
lived in that many households? And I really did not know. I really never paid attention to it until my senior year in high school. And there was an educator. Her name is Norma Washington, and I talk about her in the book. But she helped me to fill out scholarship applications because I really didn't know what I was going to do after high school. I knew I wanted to make money, I want to help people, and I just wanted to live the best life that I possibly could, and most of all have stability. But she told me and encouraged me to write about my story in my essays for scholarship applications, to show the tenacity, to show the determination to overcome obstacles and what she called undesirable circumstances.
Okay.
And so those undesirable circumstances, her knowing more about my life than I acknowledged at the time, but the school also let me see my file. And that's when I'm like, oh, that's where I was with this school.
Wow.
And oh, that's the name of this school.
You were just living life day to day.
Life. Yes, and not even really fully acknowledging or wanting to acknowledge the circumstances that I had experienced to that date.
And how did you, because even we were a military family, and I know the effect that it will have on young people in military families, just moving, you know what I mean, and
And
changing
I'm often asked that
schools.
question, whether I was a what do you call it, army brat?
Yeah, Army brat. Yeah.
No, I'm not an army brat. Just had young parents that tried to make things work out. Unfortunately, they didn't. And then due to issues that both of my parents experienced, I live with other people. But what I do think is that those people were willing to take me in because they did not have to. I wasn't in foster care. I call it community care because
Wow.
people literally stepped up at the time of need and allowed me to live with them at
Wow.
different points in my life.
Wow. And so how did that, I'm just thinking from an academic perspective, it's hard enough to be in the same system and familiar with the same people and all of that.
Right.
But how did that affect you, all this starting and stopping and friends, and how socially, how did you deal with that?
I don't recall any negative consequences to it,
Wow.
if you will.
Wow.
I found it to be a benefit, especially when it was time to go to college, because to me it was just another move. Like I didn't have an issue with
Right.
homesickness
Yeah.
or anything like that. And I remember literally talking to my friend. We were roommates. We've been knowing each other since second grade. But I'm like, this is just another move for me. But I know it can impact people, having to make new friends. I was always the new girl, but really individuals, teachers, they really embrace me. The one thing that I remember having an issue with myself as a third grader
Wow.
going into
Okay.
the fourth grade was transferring from California back to Texas.
Okay.
And when I was in California, I was in split classes where I was tested for some gifted program, and I didn't make it into the program, but they had me in a split class where it was like second graders doing third grade work, third graders doing fourth grade work. And so when I was transitioning to the fourth grade, I was still in third grade, but I was doing fourth grade work. So I felt like I needed to go from fourth to fifth
Fifth.
because I was already doing fourth grade work.
Okay.
But the administrators in Houston, Texas didn't see it that way. And like I remember arguing for myself, baby. I knew I was gonna be a lawyer then.
Yeah, you
I need
started
to be in
early.
the fourth grade
Right,
because
yeah.
I've already been doing. I need to be in the fifth grade. But I remember that being an issue, and the transition from states. And I don't know if the curriculum was different or whatever the case
Yeah.
may have been. But I do remember voicing my concerns about that.
Wow. Okay. So that started you on this road, but even at that, and your book talks about it. But even at that, you went to college. But then there's still been some challenges in your life to even end up where you are today.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing, I use my book as a resource for families and friends that have a loved one living with mental illness. But ultimately, my platform, I would like to use to just help people to turn their problems into power. Like we
that's
all have problems, and they're not going to go away just because you reach some level of success.
Right.
Some people feel, I make all this money, I'm not going to have any more problems. Yes, you will. As Biggie said, more money, more problems. But I'm
Right,
sure he's
right,
not the
yeah.
only author of that quote.
Yeah.
But there are always going to be issues, and what we need to do is build up the stamina and the determination to overcome issues that come our way, because it can be very challenging. And for me, going into college, one of my biggest challenges was that my mother, who was diagnosed with mental illness, asked me to come and live with me as a student. No, I know college students, like, who wants to live with their parent anyway?
Right, yeah, in a normal
Right.
scenario, right? Yeah.
But as her only child, both of my parents' only child, I could not, and I felt like I could not say no. So I felt obligated to say yes. And unfortunately, her mental health declined significantly when she lived with me. And it was at that time, though, that I know I reached out for help. And I learned that I didn't have to do this by myself.
Okay.
And my family, we do not have to do it alone.
Alone.
Yes.
And that was a big part of it. And so, besides your community, your community that helped you, I know one of the things in your book here, right in the first chapter, talks about faith.
Yes. I present 5 principles that I apply in my life in overcoming challenges and turning my problems into power. And the number 1 being faith. Faith in your God-given talents and abilities to exceed and excel in order to do whatever it is that you set for yourself to do in life. So number one is faith, and then determination, motivation, preparation, and action. And I believe by applying those principles, individuals are able to succeed. But knowing that that doesn't mean it's not going to be without challenges.
Right, so you're still
Yes.
gonna have challenges
Absolutely.
that come. So, talk to us a little bit more. What was that again? The first point was your faith.
Yes.
The second one,
Determination.
what does that look like? That resiliency and that, what does that look like? That determination?
Well, for me, the first time I could fully articulate it and understand what I meant by that was hearing Shannon Sharp during his Hall of Fame induction
Okay.
ceremony speech. I had never been to a Hall of Fame induction ceremony before. It was my very first one. I actually had both of my children with me at the time. But he described having a 5-alarm fire inside of him that drove him to be the best football player he could be. And what the backstory was is that he did not want to return to Glenville, where he lived in a shack that leaked every time it rained. He didn't want to eat cold possum and oatmeal and squirrel anymore. And so that drove him to do whatever he had to do, and in this case football, to have a higher quality of life. And that's when I knew, I mean, because I remember days where there wasn't food in the house,
Right.
you know, opening the cabinet. I didn't want to ever open the cabinet or refrigerator and only see condiments. I had never wanted to, have all this moving around for my children.
Yeah.
I wanted stability. I wanted to not have to work 2 and 3 jobs like I saw my mother do.
Right.
So all I knew is the circumstances I was running away from, and whatever was going to lead me to having a better life than that is what I wanted, not only for myself, but also for my children. So in some of his closing remarks, Shannon Sharp had indicated that he did not want his children to have to live 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute in the life that he lived. And that's what I felt for my own children.
And so that really inspired, you already inspired, but it sort of sounds like it sort of crystallized.
Yes.
That's what he's talking about. That's
That
the same that
5-alarm fire.
I have
Yes.
that
Yes.
gave you a way to talk about. I have that same,
Yes,
I have
my
that same
determination.
fire and that
Mhm.
determination.
And
So-
a lot of us have that. It's something that's driving us
Yes.
to want more in life.
Yes,
Something.
and my big mantra is to inspire, empower, and equip people to walk in their purpose.
Mhm.
And that word purpose and passion go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And and that passion can be driven by the fact that I'm not going that way.
Right.
Been there, done that.
Right,
I'm
right,
not going back
right.
to it. So what was the next principle?
Motivation.
Motivation.
Yes, we all need some kind of push to
Yes.
keep going.
Yes.
And I consider that to be outside forces, outside factors. So the determination is something internal.
Yes.
But the motivation are outside factors, and that can be, going to a workshop or seminar that's a motivational speaker presenting, anything, teachers, those
Right.
positive people in your life that help keep you going despite the obstacles that you're surely going to face at any
Yes.
given moment.
Absolutely. Your next principle was it?
Preparation.
Preparation.
Yes, and this was
Yes.
a learning experience as well, because as you see, the person who wrote the foreword is Les Brown.
Yes.
And I think it's important for us to be prepared to receive what we are asking for, or to receive even more than what we're asking for. And I learned that when communicating with Les Brown. Because when I first met him, I would always give people like a package of information, my resume, a cover letter, and a copy of an article that was written about me in the local newspaper. And I gave that information to Mr. Brown because I was the MC and he was the keynote for an event.
Okay.
So later that night, he called me at home. He had already read through the information I provided, and he told me I had a story for the world to hear.
Okay.
Now that was 1 year. It was like 6 years later
Later.
that I contacted him to see if he would allow me to use his statement on my marketing material. And he told me, I'll do better than that. I'll write the foreword to your book if you want me to. He asked for 2 to 3 chapters, the first 2 to 3
Okay.
chapters of the book. And I sat there on the phone not knowing what to say because I had nothing written. All I had was a statement. I'm writing a book. And this gentleman, this internationally known motivational speaker, best-selling author,
Right.
was prepared to give me more than I asked for, but I was not prepared to receive it.
That's
So,
powerful.
We all think that somebody bigger and greater than us can help us, but are you ready
Are
for
you
what they may
ready?
be able to do for you?
And a lot of classes I do, one of my ongoing things, people that hear me, is that you perform at your level of preparation.
Yes.
You know, I say that all the
yes.
time, that we perform. I teach a class on how to ace an interview. You know, and that's one of my things. You're going to perform at your level of preparation.
Right.
And that whether it's sports or whatever, if you have to think, you're already a step. It's too late if you have to think. So yeah, you perform at your level of preparation, and I know I found in my life that things that I thought education and that I thought I was preparing to do another thing, God turned around and I'm using them in a total different way.
Wow, absolutely. That's great. That's great.
You know, I was preparing for one thing,
Right.
not knowing
Right.
that it was going to help me in another
Well,
way.
having that, biblical verse in regards to His will and not our will being done, and if you're open to that, then there are greater things that are in store for sure. So we can have our own plan, but be open
You better be
and
open
ready
to
for
His
other
plan.
things.
And
Yes.
even us, you and I sitting here having this conversation is us being open to His plan, because we lived in Maryland,
Right.
and my plan was to be in Maryland. I'm retired from the Air Force. We were living the good suburban life,
Right.
you know what I mean, in Maryland, living in our McMansion, and you know what I mean? Living that kind of life, right?
Right.
And then the Lord spoke to us about coming back to not only Alliance but Stark County and bringing our gifts and talents and skills, starting Spirit of Faith and family empowerment, and adding value to this community. Well, a lot of things that I learned and what I saw is what I'm using here. You know, I remember my brother said to me, "Man, just think what you guys be doing if you never left." I said, we wouldn't be doing anything because we wouldn't have been exposed to another way.
Right, having different experiences that you can help increase and grow here.
People around you.
Yes.
What was the other point? I don't know.
Yes, so after preparation is action. So that's the fifth one.
Okay.
Yeah. Even in school you can doodle and daydream and wish upon a star. But if you don't take action, whatever you're trying to reach is not going to come to fruition. Like, you have to take action, and it takes you being actively involved and taking the steps to get where you want to go, and being prepared for those who may be there to help you get there along the way. Open to the motivation that will keep you going, because there are going to be obstacles, and then the determination and ultimately keeping your faith above all things all times. Yes,
because you're gonna, not if but when you run into some roadblocks, right?
Absolutely.
To be able to negotiate your way around. And a lot of people, they sit around planning and
never execute.
But if you don't execute the plan, it really doesn't matter. One of the sayings I have is, God blesses in the pursuing stage, not in the planning stage.
Okay.
And we're never going to have all the answers before we start.
Right.
You know what I mean? And,
you
and
just
it's
need to start.
You just got to start. And as you go, He'll add value to you. John Maxwell said that movement creates momentum. And as you're going, that momentum, people will come along behind you and continue to push you. And I'm sure that you've seen that, happen in your life. So talk to us a little bit about, you're there in Canton and doing some things in Canton there, but I know you also had a situation here.
Whatever do you mean? Well, I had a historic election in 2017, and we talked about God's plan and what His will may be. It may be different than our own, and right now I'm at a point of not really knowing, because my plan was to continue to run for office and run for judge again. I would like to be judge in Stark County, and I felt like this win was something that was propelling me to continue on with a political career.
Tell us about what happened, what office you ran for, and sort of the odds that were against you, as it were.
Yes. Well, just my story alone, 14 schools, 3 states, 8 households, not having a big name in this county. for sure not a political
Right,
name
right.
in this county. And so in the primary, there were 8 candidates. I was one of 8 candidates, and I came in number 1 out of the 8 candidates. And then moving on into the general election, there were 6 candidates, and this time with all party affiliations as well as independent, so the Democrat, Republican, as well as independent candidates, and I came in number 1 again. So as the author of the article wrote, I believe that was Todd Porter with the repository, had indicated that, you know, if you were betting, the odds would be against me,
Right.
Corey, but
Right.
you would be wrong.
Right.
And it was a surprise. It was a great, awesome feat and historical